What is the hardest obstacle you've ever had to overcome in your life? A lot of people think small time, like learning how to ride a bike, or something more adventurous, like working up the courage to cross some things off of your bucket list, or even writing one to begin with. But there are so many things you could choose from. For me, it was communication. I grew up with a lot of anxiety and an extremely introverted disposition. On top of that, I struggled much more than a lot of my peers to develop empathy and social skills as a result of growing up with autism. I had a vocabulary that blew my peers out of the water, but I struggled to use those words to form connections or make friends. Connections are quintessential to a species so heavily reliant upon socialization. The phenomenon of social media is arguably one of our greatest triumphs. It has allowed us to weave a web of connections across the entire planet if we feel so inclined. It has allowed us to reconnect with long-lost friends. It has allowed us to have a space where we can share our lives, views, experiences, triumphs, failures, pain, learning experiences, and our identities. But for similar reasons, social media has taken the human element out of our experiences. That's the crux of it, isn't it? It's a double-edged sword. What unites us can be used to divide us. We used to progress through certain layers of communication as a sort of way of warming up to one another. You would make small talk and test the waters. You would go home, think about how you had a nice time getting to know that person, maybe how you want to get to know them better. You would contact them and set up a time to hang out, and you'd follow through on your plans. A lot of rinse and repeat, a lot of progression over time. You used to get to know people better before you were faced with a barrage of information in such a short period of time. If you faced uncomfortable spots of disagreement, you might be able to better negotiate or reconcile these problems in a closer relationship. But in the age of social media, we're exposed to so many sound bites, so many walls of text, so many videos, so many different perspectives. A lot of people use their social media accounts as a sort of personal blog. Information you could take months to learn through casual conversation, and the traditional path of relationship building is easily accessible with a few clicks and search bars. If you don't know somebody and you see something that causes even the slightest bit of tension or discomfort, a casual eye roll, or a moment of hesitation, you don't owe them anything. You don't feel inclined to step out of your comfort zone, not for somebody you barely know. Not having a bond with somebody while having access to their whole lives can potentially place you in a really difficult and uncomfortable spot. You'll be less inclined to tolerate those initial tensions, to see past the surface and semantics, and see the human underneath. You might be inclined to unfriend them, or unfollow them, or block them, or otherwise take a step back. And if you go through this process with other people before you find a strong foundation, you'll be setting yourself up for a disconnect with these people. And what if you go through this same process with everyone you encounter? It's a lot of rinse and repeat, a lot of burning bridges. Video chats, text messages, phone calls, all of these things connect us, but we've come to rely almost exclusively on a tiny rectangle to connect with each other, when the strongest connections are formed in the living room, or at the dinner table, or standing on the front porch. We spend our lives waiting for a text message, sending a text message. It's a lot of rinse and repeat, a lot of disconnect with the human element in the face of technology that grants greater connectivity than ever before. But wouldn't our lives be better spent cruising down the open road, or listening to good music with good company, or having the critical conversations, or even the silly conversations that make you laugh until you cry, or loving like you never thought you could? How much higher would the quality of our lives be if we weren't so caught up in the quantity of our Instagram followers? Just think about it.